Hello, everybody, and welcome to Full Focus, the cinema-based entertainment podcast where a couple of freelancers come together to talk shop. My name is Mike, and as always, I am joined by my brother in crime, a man who's able to jump mediocrity in a single bound, a man whose will is truly bulletproof, a superhero of the local film scene here in Salt Lake. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Andrus.
No applause today. No. I don't deserve it. I deserve an ovation. No applause, just the ovation.
Everybody stand up.
Thank you.
Nice, much better, much better.
Silence, no applause. Just the ovation. Thank you so much.
Man, they're taking the commands really well today.
I know. Did you do one for you?
I did indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't, I still have to work on the introduction for myself, but we'll get to it. It's me, your roaming rat trap of entertainment information, the mutant weasel of your island oasis, willing to take any job, regardless of the risk. It's your boy, it's me, Mike Juarez. How are you? They always cheer less for me than you, and you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. Andrus,
that's because you're in control of the applause button.
What? Easy, dude. Come on.
The live audience.
Thank you. Pay no attention to the man behind the green curtain. Applause button. Jeez. This is a union show, sir.
I'm surprised you didn't do a polka dot reference.
I know. I was itching for it, but I'm not clever enough. I don't. What would it be like? I don't know. A man who'd never be able. Wait. A man you'd never say whose knowledge is spotty. No, that wouldn't work. A man who's a big fan of polka. That's right. It's or something like that. I don't know. No,
that's a good one. I
Thank
like
you.
that.
Good.
That's right.
We'll work it out. But anyway, everybody, it is a pleasure and a privilege to be speaking to you once more, and also a pleasure to be joined by you, Robert. It's so good to see you again after a brief hiatus brought on by vacation, family stuff, and quite honestly, general chaos here in the West, which is good and bad for the film industry.
It's just the way that it is.
It's just the way that it is.
It's our world.
It is our world. It is our world. There's hurricanes all over the place. There's fires. There's rain. There's general distress. But luckily, you and I still have the privilege, thank the gods above and below, and the time to take a moment and hopefully take people out of the chaos and talk about one of our favorite things, which is just general movies and entertainment. And man, we got a good title this time. It has been doing the rounds for a while as of the date of this recording, but this is definitely one that I am excited to get your opinion about, and also excited to talk about kind of like the background story as to how it came to be. This is the story about a group of people who were brought together during chaos, for chaos. Kindred spirits who are willing to die to save the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about Suicide Squad.
Robert Dubois. He's in prison for putting Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet.
I'm not joining your Suicide Squad.
We'll see.
My court date is coming up. And Miss Waller said maybe you could help me out.
You're flexing in my door!
Everyone stand down.
Miss Waller, I don't...
Stand down!
I wouldn't take such extreme measures if this mission went more important than you could possibly imagine. Are you in or out? Good. Let's meet your team.
It's okay, I'm not okay.
Each member is chosen for his or her own completely unique set of abilities.
I need to feel the raindrops on my head, on my head.
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. Had to go number 2.
Good to know.
Is this thing a dog?
A dog? What kind of dog do you think it is, mate?
I'm gonna go with Afghan Hound.
Oh my god, is it a werewolf?
Yo, they turned me into a werewolf! Yo, let me out!
Hey, he's not a werewolf, okay? He's a weasel. He's harmless. I mean, he's not harmless. He's killed 27 children, but, you know.
Your mission is to destroy every trace of something known only as Project Starfish. Any questions?
Starfish is a slang term for a butthole. Think there's any connection?
No.
No. All right. Let's get it.
suicide. Well, that's kind of our thing.
I'm a superhero!
Where's my dad?
I'm gonna get you out of your life.
I'm going to get you out of here alone.
Ratatouille, what do you got?
Bird.
Now it. Stay off the comm.
And there you have it, everybody. This is The Suicide Squad, the standalone quote-unquote sequel to the original production back in 2016, only now headed by a man who is very comfortable, very capable, and very experienced when it comes to taking care of fantasy superheroes and, let's be honest, gore and explosions. He's not shying away from any of it in this production either. James Gunn. Let's go ahead and double check on our lovely synopsis from IMDb, which is your favorite place to start. Supervillains Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, Peacemaker, and a collection of nutty cons at Belle Reve Prison join the super secret, super shady Task Force X as they are dropped off at the remote enemy-infused island of Corto Maltese.
There it is.
And this story takes place with an incredible cast, not only the actors themselves, but the characters that they are portraying. Lots of DC comic favorites just being pulled up and made relevant again, if not briefly, then at least for a moment. Everybody has their moment in the sun. To do, what they do best. We balance a lot of schlocky humor, which is can hit the note perfectly or really be far from it. Some really well played choreography and violence, and James Gunn, coming from his trauma background in this particular film, let loose a little bit when it came to the gore and explosions, making it what I thought was a pretty fun film, not to be taken seriously. And I'm a comic nerd, and I was able to let a few of the cardinal sins that I saw in this film pass by the wayside. Because of just how fun it was. Andrus, we've come to this culmination of superhero films, starting with X-Men way back when, Fox jumping in on first, and then we're going into like the Marvel tree, and now we have like DC coming up and going through different studios, different creators, that kind of thing. Do you think that this movie, the way that it was written and produced, do you think this might be a signal that maybe after, I think, 20 years, maybe, or so, of this being like a regular trope in Hollywood? Every summer, almost every quarter, a superhero movie or a mutated version of a superhero movie coming out and making large box office fame.
Well, and then some.
And then some. Do you think that this is kind of maybe a sign that it's finally being able to fade out when it comes to it? Or do you think that because...
Oh, hell no.
Oh, hell, not at all? Please explain. Because this is a quote unquote a sequel, but it's actually a remake, a different look into these characters, even though they were able to carry over some actors from the previous film back in 2016. What do you think about this?
Well, I think as long as something is produced and there's financial gain behind it, they're going to do so much with it.
Yeah, if you can make money, why not go for it?
If you're going to, and like the superhero fad isn't a fad. It's a genre.
Yeah, it is.
It's going to be here forever.
I
don't think that's going to change, because if you look at all of our TV shows, if you look at all of our upcoming movies, they're so full of superhero type elements and fantasy elements.
Yeah,
it's here to stay. I don't think it's going anywhere.
So you think that we're going to start considering this as like a how can I put this, like a pseudo kind of chimera genre? Like, how we have like different we have like the big 3 or 4 or whatever, we have like drama, comedy, horror, action, that kind of thing. And then, this is like film school 101. We have like different derivatives off of that.
Well, they're all action.
They are all action, but also we see like these comedic elements that come into play.
Oh, of course.
The soundtrack hails back to like old rock and indie films a little bit. We have actually some points in the film that are almost replicas of things that Gunn did with his video game career, and they are an homage to that. I mean, this is kind of like a way of seeing. Do you think that superhero movies are the best genre to just pick and choose your flavor and put it all in the gumbo and see what happens?
I think so. That and horror.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, for sure, because you can very easily cross over into the supernatural or to the fantasy or to any of those with really any genre.
Yeah.
that there's such an easy blend that you can do now. It's just a matter of, does the story work?
For sure.
So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love the superhero genre, is because X-Men is a really good example of that. Told a great story.
Told us good story. Absolutely. We have like
performed well.
It was performed well. We have like the situation. I have to dig back in my memory banks there, but there's definitely like father-son relationships that are coming through. There's family development. There's the wandering hero phenomena that we see in a lot of action films, with Hugh Jackman first taking up the Wolverine role. Do you think we see any of that traditional stuff in this film? I mean, we do have like definitely one thing that kind of bothered me about the previous incarnation of this film back in 2016 is that they tried to make it more of like they tried to play with that, family versus God kind of dynamic. You have like these ne'er-do-wells, these people who are able to find value in themselves and then they're able to find value in each other, and they're able to beat the bad guy by, the power of friendship, for lack of a better term. And I think that came to fruition a little bit late, to the point that it got corny in the previous film. I think they might have handled that a little bit easier with this one. What do you think?
Well, I did not like the previous one.
I did not like the previous film either.
This one, I think, is definitely an upgrade from the previous.
I think most people are in agreement with that, right? Like,
is that accurate? I think. Okay.
The people that I've asked with, like, especially our brother in arms, Mr. Umberto Estrada. I watched this with him, and we both agreed that it's not necessarily a great superhero film by any means, but it's definitely an improvement on the original. And I think that's because of Gunn doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the writing and just giving the actors a place to breathe with this ridiculous kind of subject matter.
I agree with you, and I think the fail on the first one for me is the fact that I thought that they were taking it too serious.
Yeah, a little bit too dark.
And this has everything that one had. Without it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and they
exactly.
know that it's ridiculous.
I mean,
and they embraced its idiocy and it's. I mean, what? Spoiler alert! Please,
what?
Throw that down.
Spoiler alert!
It's a gigantic starfish.
It's a gigantic.
Like, are you kidding me? Can we just say how threatening this is? And of course, yes, it is mind control and everything else that it is. But it's a giant freaking starfish.
Hey, don't underestimate the powers of Starro, okay?
I'm not.
He is a devastating force.
Obviously. Obviously. But I was really expecting our heroes in this one to merge into a gigantic samurai robot.
For sure.
Sword that could slice through it. I mean, it's ridiculous, and basically they did that. So I mean, it really was a Power Rangers episode.
Absolutely.
But it was so stupid. It was so
great.
Ridiculous. It was so out there that it was enjoyable.
Exactly. You can just have fun.
I had
with
so
it.
much fun in this one. I didn't. The other one was just. I don't know if it was too dark or if the story wasn't there for me.
I think that like when we talk about that, story's a good place to pick up on it, because this definitely had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I think that James Gunn, given his experience when it comes to the work that he did in the Marvel universe with both Guardians of the Galaxy, both 1 and 2, and then mixing that with the ridiculous stuff that he has to go through when it comes to doing horror films for Trauma way back in the day, to like Slither, to like that kind of stuff. He's able to bring these comedic, ridiculous points of fact, I guess. It's kind of an oxymoron there, so that people can actually start seeing themselves in these characters and rooting for them in ways that go beyond just the ridiculous. And when it comes to this, that's something that you picked up on that I think we should talk about a lot. It's not easy to have a combination of complete weirdness, complete like Twilight Zone, like the restrictor plate is off the car, the gas is the pedals to the metal, and still take it somewhat seriously so that we can still like roll with the punches here. And I think this movie did a good job of that. How do you think they were able to take care of that? Was it like these scenes where we have like these emotional things pop up? Is it just James Gunn putting his flavor on it, or do you think that this kind of leaned heavily on the actors taking it just seriously enough to power through? I mean, like John Cena. I mean, John Cena's a perfect person to choose for this stuff. The former WWE star. He knows camp. He knows melodrama, but he also knows how to how to put butts in seats with this extravagant action. What are your feelings about that? I mean, I know it's a big question. I always ask you big questions.
No, it's a super big question. But I mean, like, in what context are we talking? Are we talking about the Milton of it?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Because
like Polka Dot and Milton and Harley and Milton. And like the whole Milton of it, was so sentimental and endearing and beautiful in the ridiculousness of what it is.
They mixed it really well.
Who's Milton? Do you remember that whole conversation?
I do remember.
Which one is Milton?
Just the bus driver. It's like, he's been with us the whole time. And now he's dead.
Oh, spoiler!
I love it.
Oh my god!
Spoiler alert!
Spoiler! Sad.
Spoiler alert!
No, but the whole notion of like all of these people trapped together, and this guy's actually he's been beneficial to the group and whatever.
Uh-huh.
The fact that nobody knows who the hell he is, they're so self-involved with their own agendas.
Well, we know who he is. It was Julio Cesar Ruiz. And
we don't care who he is. He's the Milton of it. He's the red shirt. That's the point of it.
Yeah, I loved it that Taika Waititi was in this too, playing Ratcatcher. He did some really cool cameos.
And that was a beautiful moment because the moment with his daughter was just it was precious. It was nice.
Yeah,
and it was a good moment of storytelling for that character.
Do you know my biggest surprise was that Sylvester Stallone played King Shark.
King Shark.
He did the voice, and after I watched it again just for the podcast, I was like, oh man, perfect choice. It was perfect.
Well, and I've got to say, like, to answer your question with another thought or another idea is the actress that played Ratcatcher 2.
Yes.
Daniela
Melchior.
Melchior. I don't know how to say your name. Sorry. I apologize for butchering it.
I may be mispronouncing it. I hope not.
I really liked that character, but I liked her more after I got the Ratcatcher scene with
absolutely. And I think that's the thing that you're touching on. That's the exact answer to the question I'm asking, and that's James Gunn.
That's what I was thinking you were going to do. Yeah. Because she wasn't a sympathetic character for me the entire time until I knew what a little bit of her backstory was.
Right.
Coming in blind from not knowing anything about that character, that was like, oh, okay, all right. There's a human element to it. There's this. I have no idea. Did we discover why she was in jail?
We never got an answer as to why. I thought it was just like petty theft or something like that. But we never got
something like that. But I mean, the fact that all of these they're supposed to be hard criminals, maximum security.
Oh right? Yeah, they're all murderers in one shape, sense or another.
Well, as we come to find out about the Weasel, we didn't find out about her. You know.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, there's definitely some things about this where I'm like, okay, I get some effect of that.
Right.
I got that with Idris Elba's character. I got that with Harley. Mm-hmm. I did not get that with the Peacemaker.
No, but that wasn't the reason for him to be there. He was there for,
and I don't think it's supposed to be. I don't. I think that they're setting him up to be whatever he needs to be for the series that they're doing.
You definitely got it, I think, with David Dastmalchian's work with Polka Dot Man. I mean, he did such a good job. I mean, that's kind of like, I hate to say that he's been typecast, but I have not seen one production that he's been in where he hasn't played either the person who is low self-esteem and they learn how to get it back or not, or the really intelligent asshole, excuse my language, who is able to able to survive. But he does it so well. And that's one thing that we have to talk about too. When it comes to the acting here, and I know that this has become like a regular thing because, like we were mentioning before, superhero movies have become their own subgenre, and they're not going anywhere. It would be foolish for you as an actor to not have that in your repertoire. And by that, I mean specifically the well-balancing capability of camp and seriousness that you're going to find in almost any kind of production like this. And the entire cast does a great job. Idris Elba hits it off by hitting us in the heartstrings with his daughter, even though he's a merciless killer. Also, he has ego that he and John Cena are able to play like, this buddy-buddy, like, kind of big brother, little brother kind of thing going on for the first going into the second act. We have great work with, Madam Viola Davis.
So good.
So good.
She's so good.
Coming back as Amanda Waller.
But the thing is I hate her character. I don't like the character at all, and it's appropriately
but like
performed because of that.
Right. But it's still part of the camp. It's like, what are we going to do, Commander? Damn it, you know what we're going to do. I'm going to push the button. Don't push the button. I'm pushing the button. I mean, it's so melodramatic and campy, but because they keep, Nathan Fillion's in this movie. He's the master at this. And when you go through and double check, I think, watching it a second time, I see these actors really committing to the bit. And that allows me to take it a bit more seriously when it comes to the fact that we're dealing with a group of people who are trying to kill an alien starfish.
Sorry, could you say that again?
We're dealing with a group of people who are trying to kill an
alien. Wait, what kind of starfish is it?
It's an alien starfish.
It's a mind control.
It's a mind control.
I mean, come on.
I love it. It's so good.
And what was the premise in the first one?
The first one, it was a Amazonian.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I got you.
Your stutter there?
I remember what it was. It takes more time though. It's a ghost from the Amazon want to take over the world and corrupt the souls of the entire universe. Fine.
Snooze fest.
Give me my mind control starfish any day.
Give me an alien starfish.
One thing that does pop up a lot when it comes about talking to this film, though, is the production and the way in which it was pushed up. Unfortunately, Mr. Gunn was dealing with some controversy and maybe the tail end of it during the production of this film. In real life, after Guardians of the Galaxy hit it out of the park a few years back, and there were rumors of James Gunn getting the sequel. Some tweets were unearthed about him telling some jokes that were really off color and were really bad jokes. But he was able he was fired from the production, not of this one, but of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But because of the amount of time that passed and him being illogical in regards to how he's been able to learn from that and apologize for the statements that he made. Also, they weren't serious. I personally, I don't think that his job should ever have been, put in jeopardy. They were in bad taste. They weren't funny. But
do you know what though? Here's the thing: humans are humans.
Exactly.
And I don't know the context. I can only imagine what the context is because I don't remember any of the tabloids about it.
Right.
But I feel like if you make a mistake, you have the opportunity to be forgiven for that mistake, and you have the opportunity to apologize for that mistake, and then move on with your life.
Yeah.
I don't think that should blacklist anybody forever unless like you're murdering someone.
Well, that's the thing.
Someone, there's a level there. But.
Exactly. I mean, it depends. It depends on the degree, right? And when we talk about that, this is really interesting because this movie here, we now see like James Gunn with all of his creative capabilities back. He was somewhat hampered on Guardians of the Galaxy 2. The entire cast had to threaten to leave the project unless he was brought back on, which he was, and they were able to continue.
Which I think is a great tribute to who he is as a human being.
Absolutely.
Rather than a comment.
And we see that come through in the film here. James Gunn has a great job of being able to say to you, hey, this movie's going to be fun. And it's going to be fun because it's going to be ridiculous. But it's going to be ridiculous in a way that allows you to take it seriously enough to just stay with it. Then at the end, I'm going to show you that, these people can actually become a family and they can beat the big bad and they can come out on top, but they're going to come out on top dirty. It's not going to be super clean or everything, but at the very least, it's going to be a good ride. And I think they do that well.
What's the name of the show? I mean, come on. Like, how is it going to be clean?
Yeah, the Suicide Squad, right? For sure.
I mean, sorry. It's just not. but how interesting is it that, like, I mean, what is the line of Unforgivable?
That's a great question.
You know what I mean? Because like in the show, if I'm taking it back to the context of the show, there's a lot of unforgivable things that happen in there.
See,
and there's a lot of beautiful things that happen in there.
Right. I think one of the things that pops up here is, we've been talking about it a lot, and it's really just a balancing act. I mean, you mentioned before that you don't like Madame Davis's character because she's relentless. She has a job and she's willing to, get the job done any possible way, which unfortunately in this rendition of Suicide Squad means killing off an entire half of the team before the other half is able to infiltrate the island. And then even further, threatening the lives of a lot of people in order to try and get things done. We have John Cena's character, who at one point is a comedic relief. His character is killing people left and right. I mean, they're just soldiers that we don't care about. But then he goes on and he kills Joel Kinnaman's character.
I just thought of a punchline in there too while you were saying that, and then you just went on to a sad moment. So sorry for that. I was giggling before you went to the sad moment.
Let me continue with my sadness.
Spoiler alerts! Spoiler alerts!
Rest in peace, Colonel Rick Flag.
You know what? I didn't really care for it. Whatever.
Andrus is like, yeah, I'm good.
No, just on Joel, but I didn't like the character. I did find his character redeeming, which I liked him by the time that he met his demise.
Yeah.
But
great death scene though. Great death scene.
It was.
You don't think so?
I'll give you that. It was, but I think I was meant to care more than what I did.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's my problem with it. It's because I didn't.
I mean, that's one thing that kind of hit me off balance a bit. The roster of superheroes in this film was huge. Half of them die, and the only ones I really cared about that did die were Joel Kinnaman's character, Colonel Rick Flag, and Captain Boomerang, played by the very talented
that's
Jay
so
Courtney.
Not true. There's so many more that died. Are you serious? Are you serious?
Okay, more than half. I mean,
like all of them.
Okay,
that's why they're left with the B team.
That's true. That's true. I was kind of sad.
Team.
I was kind of sad that Polka Dot Man died too, but I think and also like in a previous draft.
But did he really? We're not sure on that one.
You know what? You're right. We never saw a body. We just saw the clothes.
Well,
the uniform,
but it's a subjective thing too.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know how the dimensional virus that he was infected with
works. That's my point. That's my point. We don't know anything about that.
I gotcha.
We just saw an
alien,
a star squish. We saw a star squish.
We saw a walking pile of calamari. Just
we saw a lot of I don't know. There's just something fishy about his death.
How dare you?
I don't know. That's so dumb. But okay. I was digging the Savant.
Yeah.
And then they killed him off way too soon.
Yeah, way too soon, for sure. I
agree. No cares for the weasel.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Especially when it came back at the end. I mean, that was like, oh, the dog's dead. Oh wait, no, the dog is still alive. Yay.
Captain Boomerang, like, I didn't like the first movie. I didn't like him in the first movie. I loved him in the first movie, I'll be honest.
I like the actor.
Yeah. Viola Davis. Okay, so here's the point.
Yeah.
Viola Davis is incredible
in everything she does.
Amanda Waller is a despicable piece of garbage. The fact that she plays Amanda Waller the way that she plays her with so much passion and so much intensity and so much whatever it is, kudos to Viola, because I can't say anything bad about her. She's incredible.
Yeah.
But the character is inflexible, and the fact that the character is inflexible makes the character garbage for me.
Yeah, makes it unlikable.
Like, and the Peacemaker is the same way.
Yes.
He is so, I mean, they're two characters that are so consistent with who they are.
Right.
That they're incapable of that change. And I think that that's a flaw in their character.
I think that's because it's so blatant in regards to what they do to exist. I mean, they're they're the antagonists, kind of. I mean, I know they're not the big evil, but we need we need to have like these elements. You see this in like action films. You see this in period drama a lot. I mean, I watched Minority Report a couple days back with friends.
How funny is that? We were gonna watch that last night and didn't.
It still holds up, but like Spielberg does this a lot, where like he makes the bad guy, and I think James Gunn is kind of like borrowing from that because he needs to have some balance here, because later on we see that the story is more convoluted than it really is. We have the situation where the team is supposed to go out. They're supposed to, bomb this facility. They have no idea what's really going on. In and out. That's fine. But James Gunn is doing what he usually does. He uses the characterization and the inter stories of the individuals as a point of conflict to then raise large points of conflict, which then end up becoming, the main machine powering the antagonist's actions in his movies. With this, we thought it was going to be a quick stop and drop. He offered some more of details coming about, and then through the individual attitudes of the situation at hand, we have Flag then fighting Peacemaker, and that ends up pushing the climax to where Starro actually is able to get out of the facility and start wreaking havoc, and then that becomes the main antagonist. But we wouldn't have that fire if we didn't have the kindling of Davis's and Cena's just stiff portrayal morally of these characters.
Wouldn't we?
I don't think so. I don't think the movie ends the way it does without Cena and Davis doing what they did as the characters as they were written.
I think I could fill in that plot hole.
Yeah, you could fill it in. Like that's the thing too. Like it's simple. It's simple, but it works. And because Gunn is able to like balance it with like this ridiculous humor and like this family mentality, we end up rooting for the people even more so than we did before, because we are rooting for bad people. We're rooting for villains to be successful in this endeavor. And that's because I think of just the way in which Gunn completes his narrative. He does a really good job of being able to initiate enough fun so that we can concentrate on that fun and not take it seriously when literally hundreds of soldiers are being ripped in half by mutant sharks voiced by Sylvester Stallone. There's going to be a lot of good sentences in this episode. It's going to be beautiful.
There's going to be some fun statements for sure.
But is that lazy though? Do you think that's lazy? Do you think that it's as competent as I'm pushing it out, or do you think it's just
and yeah, that's your hand. That's right.
I love it. What do you think?
There's just so many great things that happened with this, and I loved the visuals.
Oh hell yeah!
I'm just looking at a screen image of the trailer, and it's Harley with all the beautiful flowers behind. Yeah, that they remove the blood and they put in flowers.
That was actually inspired by James Gunn's video game work. He's copying really cool. that. Yeah,
that's really, really cool. There's so many really fantastic, wonderful moments that happen throughout this movie, besides all of the carnage and all of the blood and all the gore and everything else that we happen to
you can't help
enjoy in the movie world, right?
Yeah,
that's the reason we're going to these movies.
Absolutely.
But for me, there's so much about this movie that was reminiscent of the first one, which is the unlikable factor of all of these guys. Yeah. That in this movie, I got some redemptive feedback from Harley, from why do I keep missing
from Bloodsport?
Bloodsport.
Idris Elba's
I just want to call him Idris Elba because that's all he is.
Yeah, I feel
he's amazing.
He's a character all on his own.
But the fact that I didn't get one from Peacemaker or Amanda Waller really irritates me.
I think that's really interesting. So you're expecting this from all of them. Why not get it from all of them? I can understand that.
At least something.
Right.
At least something, right? We got Amanda Waller's defeat at the end. We saw that shift. We
And that
saw
was
her
funny.
defeated, which we also saw in the first one. Then.
Yeah, that's true.
She doesn't always win.
Which is good. I mean, that's vulnerable. That has the vulnerability put into it.
There were some interesting things. It's not all about the save my ass. It is, they do become, if they're all supervillains, they're all incredibly the same as Waller and Peacemaker. Right?
Yeah, I think
zero
right.
redemption whatsoever. Now, I think that there's a little bit in the fact that he's in for justice the entire time, no matter what. I like that idea.
Yeah,
but where's any bit of compassion or forgiveness or understanding? There isn't.
Right,
and that's where I have the biggest problem. All of the other ones had it.
All the other ones had a way to come
even
back
Shark
to be human. Yeah, especially
even King Shark. Well, okay, especially King Shark
for sure.
Which I full on expected him to eat her by the end. I really did. But because he did not, he
Redemption. He wins.
He actually becomes a superhero.
Absolutely. I love. I do think that's kind of emanated where that kind of like hit home for me too, where we have Polka Dot Man actually scream those words. I am a superhero. That's when it kind of. Right. That's when it kind of. That was my point of, oh, I see what he's doing now. He's making it really easy for us to understand the point of redemption for these people. And they tried to do that in the first film, but they failed because it happened too late. This one, we have like a beginning and middle of an end of some of these arcs. And I think that James Gunn really learned from the mistakes that were made in the first film. The first film wasn't like the worst film ever made. It was a fun depiction of superheroes.
No, we've reviewed that one. I'm gonna say that every time. I love it.
But yeah, no, I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I think that you're right. Every character that didn't have the capability of having that redemption pushed through is a character that we weren't rooting for, and I think James Gunn did that on purpose. I think he made it so that we could have like this delineation between the real bad guys and the real good guys because we need somebody to root for.
I would love it because they're all in the same mold.
Yeah,
I would love it if I at least got it from Peacemaker, and I didn't.
Yeah, I appreciate where you're coming from. It would have made it more interesting. And John Cena is more than able to play that kind of stuff. He's got a bit of a repertoire now.
It's no qualm against the performer because I think he's great.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that kind of popped up too, and you touched on it a little bit, the bright colors and everything, the set design, and also the chapter cards that were placed in here, where James Gunn does such a good job in this movie of making it easy for people to understand. Oh, we're in the second act now. Cool. Yeah. I mean, he literally announces it. We're like, hey, job number 2, save Harley or something like that, or whatever. Right. And the way in which they do it, with I don't know for sure, but I would not be surprised if the script notes were reflected mirror images in the film.
Sure. And how fun would that be?
Oh, that'd be super.
It would be cool to see his journal on it.
It really would be awesome. And we have like these really good set designs where we have like the third act, which is the name of the facility that Starro's being kept in, put up there on the roof that's made out of all this detritus and like garbage on top of the roof. And then we zoom out and we see that opens up the next scene that pops in. Harley's name in smoke. When they come in onto the island, we have leaves going across the shore, and it says, the time is now, or something to that. I'm not getting that completely right, but
I know what you're talking about.
Right, but like I love it how James Gunn is able to do these complicated things, which is walking on this high wire between too melodramatic and too serious, but then take something in this complicated relationship that he has with character development and the story and like the real world effects and everything, and still occasionally put in these really simple nods where it's like, hey, okay, so we're gonna show you what happens to the bad guy now. Here we go. It's just this really refreshing kind of thing that's what makes me a James Gunn fan. that he's been able to, become a better person and become a better director because of his experience, but also that he just does a really good job of being able to handle melodrama and camp. I've said this before. My favorite thing in film and theater and books that I read and everything is the proper application of melodrama, because it is the perfect seed. From melodrama, you can get despair, horror, sadness. From melodrama, you can get fun, happiness, success, chaos, all of it. It all comes from that one point of a genre. And James Gunn is a ninja with melodrama and camp, and I love it.
Well, what if I told you that this was a love story?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean? I asked you a question. What would you say?
I'd believe it.
This is a love story.
I believe it. But not a sexual love, a love between a man and his daughter. And I'm not talking about Idris Elba and his character's actual daughter. I'm talking about Bloodsport and Ratcatcher 2.
Oh.
And did I blow your mind? Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the filming.
No, I was going to say it's a love story about finding their humanity and a love for themselves once they.
Oh yeah, self-fulfillment. Hell yeah, you're worth being saved. That's been a message in James Gunn's films, sometimes quite literally. In Slither, a horror movie where alien slugs come and inhabit bodies and possess them, the inhabitants of the town actually have to have their own self-value to survive and beat the aliens. Another Nathan Fillion film, by the way. Let's talk about the filming a little bit. Principal photography began on September 20th, 2019 at Pinewood Atlanta Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. Henry Bram served as cinematographer after previously doing so for Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Production designer Beth Mickle said Gunn wanted the film to be gray and drab and monotone until the characters arrive in Corto Maltese, which he wanted to explode with color like Panama and Havana. He was trying to go for like this a Wizard of Oz kind of thing. And I think that we see that a little bit through the first part of the film, where there's a lot of death and destruction, and then we're in like this jungle plumage, and of course, bringing about like in the later part of the film where we have the what they termed as Harley Vision, where she's fighting a full battalion of soldiers. That was taken directly from the game Lollipop Chainsaw, which was a game that James Gunn actually worked on back in the day for like PlayStation, where you're a zombie apocalypse fighting cheerleader who uses a chainsaw and her pom poms to that's not a term for something else. She uses literal pom poms to fight the zombie apocalypse. It's a beautiful thing. Anyway, Mickle took specific inspiration for the island's color palette from Carolón, Panama. Phage and Marvel Studios co-president Luis Despacito visiting the set during filming. That's what he said. Gunn took several precautions. I'm not reading that right, but anyway. Gunn took several precautions to try to avoid details about the film leaking, such as referring to Elba's character in the script on set as the vigilante to prevent his actual role from being revealed, and also not giving some of the actors script pages from after their characters' deaths. Gunn said the film featured the biggest set ever built for Warner Brothers Film, with Mickle building a set the size of 3 football fields for the outside of Jotunheim, where the final battle was filmed. A warehouse-sized jungle set was also built, featuring a bamboo cage that was 8 feet deep. Gunn also said the film used more practical effects than any other blockbuster comic book movie, with on-set special effects provided by Dan Sudik and prosthetics created by Legacy Effects. This movie was breaking records and also hearts. Oh, thank you very much. So when we talk about how big blockbuster films come about, the technical specifications, the explosions, the weight of that responsibility on James Gunn and the actors, do you think that that particular kind of responsibility is easier to deal with when you're in a superhero film? Like, even if you mess up an explosion or something and nobody gets hurt, you still have the capability to film an explosion. Do you think that studio pressure is something that they have to worry about when they're dealing with something this ridiculous?
Well, yeah, just because it's so technical and it has to be choreographed so well. I mean, you only really have so many times to shoot that on any budget. So yeah, I think that there's pressure there, especially on the scale.
Well, I know there's pressure, but like we're not talking about somebody who is like, how can I put
like
this?
cut, do it again. Like, yeah, we're gonna do it as many times as we need to.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Like
I get that, but like, yeah, you want to get it on the first take. Like this is, I mean, I would much rather save my budget and pyrotechnics for other things rather than just do 500 takes of this one shot.
I guess.
Because then it's just, because if the pressure isn't there, then there's a level of complacency that I think can settle in. And I think that's a deal for sure.
Yeah.
I think that that without that pressure, the movie doesn't come out the way that it does.
Yeah.
And this one, I would say that it came out pretty darn good.
Well, I don't want to make it sound like a dumb question, because like when I pop out and talk about like these records that they're breaking and these huge pyrotechnics and these huge things that come up, I mean, of course there's going to be like some pressure there. I think like, let me phrase that question better. If you know that the studio has already provided this much of an investment, where you can see the physical dedication to it, where you're actually making football length studios and like and putting in like, you know, real trees, like recreating a jungle in order to make that happen. How often do you think other filmmakers can kind of, well, for lack of a better term, kind of get drunk with that kind of power? I mean, I know there's pressure, but we're talking about James Gunn, somebody who's come back from the dead, quite literally from a career standpoint, right? He was almost canceled to the point that he wouldn't be here. And he comes back and he gets the license here to work on these huge sets and do what he has to. Do you think that maybe that just because of having it, that allows him to, or maybe even makes him a little more lackadaisical, makes him a little more, I mean, he's not doing trauma films with a shoestring budget where he can't afford to do retakes. You know, does that make sense? Am I kind of putting that out differently now, or do you think it's?
I mean, yeah, in a way it does. But I still think that the pressure that he's under is no different than an indie filmmaker with a budget constraint pressure.
Okay.
He still has to deliver.
Yeah, but I think he's not as worried about delivering though.
I mean, like,
I think that's because of like his own,
especially after his comeback, his resurrection. You know
what? You make a good point.
Absolutely,
you make a good point
about that.
He's like, this movie has got to make money.
I think the fact that they're willing to let him do his job
says a lot
on such a big scale. Says a lot to do about him and who he is and what he's capable of producing, not necessarily who he is as a person.
Yeah, I can respect.
Because they could still come back and say, "No, he's a piece of crap person."
Well, you know, this is show business. I mean, you're supposed to be a good person and a good director. Now, you're not allowed to be different.
Yes, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it just doesn't. Because we always hear the stories. I mean. But then again, that goes back to redemption and forgiveness and every other theme that we could talk about as far as somebody saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. For me, I would say the level of pressure that he was under, I think he was capable of handling.
Yeah.
And I would say that he delivered beautifully.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
For it to be a record breaker, there's pressure in and of that. He probably knew that it was a record breaker as he was doing it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Somebody probably was in his head saying, "Hey, do you know that this is the biggest? This is the biggest ever. It's the biggest ever. Hey. Pressure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't see that as an easy answer, yes or no. I just think that it's a different kind of pressure. It's all the same thing. It's like, are you stressing about $100? Or are you stressing about 100 million?
Right.
It's the same thing on the scale. Is the only difference.
I feel you. Well, instead of like big, wide spanning questions that don't have really a yes or no answer, let's move on to our specialties then. And
you first. Tell me about it. I want to hear it.
So I really enjoyed Not the obvious sound design in this movie. First of all,
I want to hear about the starfish.
The starfish, I know. We'll get to it. So let's talk about the soundtrack. I love it how James Gunn just challenges every soundtrack in his movies, taking like old rock and just like classic rock and old Motown, and just making it a character in and of itself. He did it with Guardians of the Galaxy. He did it with the sequel. He definitely did it with this one. And that's something I always find very refreshing. We're talking about hot tracks here from the 60s, 70s, and 80s that just, I mean, I don't know how he got the rights to some of these songs.
Well, and I would say it's the same thing that I feel about Tarantino. Would you agree?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. It's definitely like, you always know when you're watching a James Gunn film, and the soundtrack is definitely part of the menu in that regard. You know what I'm saying? So that was great. I was really happy to hear that, we had these titles coming through. I didn't agree specifically with all the placement, but it ended up being pretty cool. And for the most part, I was really enjoying the different songs that were being used, and the party atmosphere in the bar scene, the final fighting scene. It's not just a movie with all strings and synths. We're able to get like some country and some rock in there too. And it makes me think that that's the kind of music that the heroes would listen to. So that was pretty cool and refreshing. When it came to the general soundscape, there was nothing special. And by general, I mean the gun sounds were competent. We had some good explosions, stuff like this. This is action superhero chic.
What about bodies being ripped in half?
Being ripped. There's
chewed through.
What was the analogy that I talked about before? There was a lot of nom. There was a lot of cabbage used in this movie for sure. For all of you who may be wondering, from our Foley
lettuce and cabbage,
our Foley artists out there, anytime that you hear a stabbing sound or you hear somebody getting like ripped apart, if it was made in Foley, 9 times out of 10 it's a head of lettuce being ripped apart, or in some capabilities, if you have strong hands, a cantaloupe.
Yes, I could do that with my brain.
It's amazing. Anyway,
in my head.
The Foley and the action sounds were generic. Nothing to be too worried about, because you know what you're going to see. And when we're dealing with like a genre like this, same thing as like when we're dealing with like a sci-fi genre or like a fantasy genre. When you put in realism, you want to have realism in there in the soundscape, because that makes the fantastical sounds that much more fantastical. And I'll tell you what, I was a fan of the fantastical here. When it came to Starro's little tentacles coming out and the sound that was pushed forth with his little babies flying out of his armpits.
Spoiler alert!
Armpits?
Spoiler alert!
I mean, he has arms. They have pits, even though he has 6 of them. Anyway. Don't make that face. Really the
openings.
Yeah, sure. We could go into detail, but let's not. I also thought like the sound with the Polka Dot Man when he was discharging and absorbing the dots out of his body. That was so cool. That was so cool to see.
Interdimensional virus.
Oh man, it was so great. It was so cool to see it. And also, I mean, like, again, that kind of speaks to Gunn too. The scenes where we see Polka Dot Man, the only way that he can kill people is if he pretends they're his mom. And then we see Polka Dot Mom. Polka Dot
Man's mom.
Mom, thank you. Played by the lovely and capable Lynn Ash. Just out there, just like wrecking house and giving.
Good for her. She must have had a ball.
I hope so. Hope so. But anyway, what I do find refreshing about this movie is that, oh man, I mean, Andrus, it's kind of like the same. It's kind of like just the way in which Gunn did the entire film. He was able to find a good balance between the melodramatic and the dramatic. Dramatic sounds, impacts, guns, that kind of stuff. Anybody can do that. It's drama. It's cookie cutter, but you know what? It works because it reflects reality. And then the melodramatic, the fantastical, is given like this audio shine even more because we have that first act to balance it off of from an audio standpoint, and I really love it. And also, like, let's not be too critical of it. The action scenes were ridiculously competent. I was watching it in my living room, and my television shook with the explosions and everything. They did great. They did great mixing in this film. I thought the mix for this film was really, really good.
Tell me what you thought about
Bloodsport.
I'm gonna say it. I want to call him Bloodshot. I don't know why. Why do I want to call him Bloodshot?
It's another hero or another villain.
I know, but I do. I'm irritated with myself for.
Was that the Vin Diesel movie? I think Vin Diesel did a movie called
is.
Bloodshot, maybe.
And Bloodsport is another movie that I grew up watching. It's
with Van Damme? What?
I know.
I think that might have been what
so
the character.
I don't know why I can't make that connection and call it by what it. Okay, so anyway,
it's all good. They used
because he uses pieces of his suit.
He uses nanotechnology in his suit to
weapons and whatever. What did you think about that?
I think that they borrowed literally some sound effects from the Transformers movies. I wasn't too happy about that, honestly.
I was wondering.
But Polka Dot Man made me happy.
Yeah, it didn't sound unique to me. So,
no.
Interesting.
But brilliantly mixed, great Foley, really good ADR. It was hard for me to find all the ADR in this movie.
They plagiarized some sound effects. These horrible humans that worked on this movie.
Right.
They're just like they're big Transformers fans. That's all they are.
It's very possible. It's very possible.
Okay.
But I couldn't find all the points of ADR in this movie, and when I did, it took me a couple times to find it. That's a little game you guys can play, ADR, automatic dialogue replacement, where you can go ahead and see where the audio on the day was bad, and you could tell that the line being said was actually being said in the studio. Which is very, very hard for actors and voice actors and engineers alike.
What do you mean?
The difference between saying it like this, like we're into action, Andrus, get down. And then going back and Andrus, we're in the action. It's about to go. Everybody get down.
Isn't that the stupidest thing ever?
It's so like if it's done well,
you don't notice it.
You don't notice it at all. But when you do notice it, it pops out. And I was able to.
It happens so much.
It does happen so much. But to their credit, whoever was the post mixing house that did this, the ADR for the most part really seamless. Some of the best that I've heard in a very, very long time. But yeah, I was a fan. As usual. I mean, I haven't worked on a film in a very long time, so take this with a drop of salt. It isn't like I have the responsibility of dealing with a multi-million-dollar return career helping blockbuster of the summer. So take that with a grain of salt. But like in my opinion, I mean, this is very, very beautiful, competent work. And I was happy, especially with Peter Capaldi as a thinker, where if you listen to him while he's talking, if you turn the volume up enough, you can almost hear the little electrodes sticking out of his head, give like little fires here or there amongst his dialogue. It's very cool. It's very cool.
Did you really?
I think so. It could have just been like an artifact that maybe I was just mentally putting in there.
Interesting.
But I thought it was pretty cool.
That'd be pretty cool. I want to go back and listen to it.
You have to turn your volume up real loud. Be careful. It could just be my television. I don't know. What do you think of the casting? How do you think the actors are able to deal with this extraordinary mix of melodrama and action, adventure, and seriousness?
I want to put it in a blender and then flush it down a toilet.
I mean, it really is, right? It really is like this huge amalgamation of a lot of moving parts. What do you think, Andrus?
It's. The cast is always something that I want to fight for on every single movie, just because I know how difficult it is to, number one, win a role, or if you're negotiating into a role to bring it justice. All I want to do is talk about Margot Robbie.
Hell yeah, dude!
Like that's literally all I want to do, because everybody else is great and wonderful, but she stole the movie.
She is the North Star of this entire production.
She is so expletive.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But she does it with a smile. She kills with a smile, a friend of mine said.
I mean, like the Milton of it, like all of it. I really can't say anything negative about what what she's done.
I
Because
forget she has such a good accent. I forget she's Australian. I keep forgetting, like when I see her in interviews and everything. Oh right. Oh my God. Right. Oh wow.
Yeah,
She's committed to the role so well.
She's just phenomenal. Like, and in the mix of talent that she is working with,
Earthshakers.
I mean, she is who she is, and she is where she is because she's very, very talented.
Absolutely.
I just can't say anything negative about her. I can't think of anything negative about her. A little bit of a love fest there.
That's okay.
But everybody else just was so great. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it was a really fun
And when
movie.
I can say that it was fun and it was as miserable as it was for a lot of it, that's a great thing. I mean, there's a lot of really great talent in here, and I could name them off one at a time, but I don't want to because
I feel you.
I'm just going to literally lump it all together. I was lucky enough to work with somebody who auditioned for this movie.
Yeah. Awesome.
Obviously before they made it. So I was interested to see where the outcome landed.
Yeah.
And I would have been super, super, super duper happy if who I helped got the part. But I also saw the part was not cut, and it was very, very cool to see the part in the movie. So,
Awesome.
Just kudos to casting. Kudos
It's important. It's important to make
cast.
those connections too, because I mean, obviously, this is a deep subject we've talked about on more than one occasion. If Utah, the state of Utah, changed a couple things in its tax structure, Salt Lake and the surrounding area would be the next Los Angeles when it comes to film production. It really would.
And it's doing fine right now, but I would really love for it to just explode. I would love for us to be using our studio every minute of every day.
Yeah.
I'd love for so many of those things, but hey, it's not.
Well, we'll take what we can get, and I love it that you can, give me a really good description of what it means to have that kind of connection to like a movie this large, and other stuff like theater and television and just casting in general. I mean, and also like I appreciate you're not that annoying at all, and I think you kind of balance out my crazy a little bit when it comes to the podcast, because with Burton here way back when, it was way too crazy, and now
so crazy.
I'm kidding, of
So
course.
nuts.
He's welcome to come back anytime he wants.
No, I think that ultimately we're doing this for the fun of it. And,
Absolutely.
And I want to keep that integrity.
But I think like being able to come to you and ask questions and know that you've gone through the real stuff when it comes to, the pressures of casting, the pressures of coordination, the kind of things that people have to deal with in real life when it comes to productions like this is something that I really respect about you, and I really do appreciate your input on that.
What I want to do in the future is if they ever release casting tapes for big budget movies that we've recorded on.
Yeah.
I want to go back and maybe change my opinion. Because I think that would be really funny, because it's just like, wait a minute. How many people did they actually see? How many people did they actually consider? How many people did they actually just ignore?
Right. No, for real. Oh my gosh. That'd be so interesting.
Friends are all of the casting isms that are out there.
Yeah.
Because this cast is huge.
It's
I guarantee you roles have been moving around for some time, other than the ones that are return characters. Right. And even still, why Idris?
Oh yeah, no, that's a great question, and it's because
great.
Mr. Smith said no to the sequel.
Because somebody said no. So
it was Will Smith.
I mean,
Will Smith
is
said
it a
no.
reimagination or is it a sequel or what is it?
I love this term, and it's a term that I haven't seen in the biz in a long time. This is officially a quote unquote standalone unquote sequel.
But is it?
We'll never know. But we do appreciate that and many other questions we'll answer on the next episode of... No, okay. But that is a good...
That was actually a really good... Why did you cut?
I know.
Keep going.
Well, because I got to say our tagline and everything. And also, I got to give let everyone know that, hey, yeah, we've reached the end of the episode. But also, that being the fact, we definitely don't want to skip over the idea of thanking you for taking some time to listen to us. We know that things can be a little bit challenging. We've been talking to you guys for like the past year and a half half about how COVID has changed the landscape of everything, especially the entertainment industry, and how even though that is the case, things are still going strong. Things are still, getting taken care of in a, hopefully, for the most part, a safe manner. And we do see the horizon, and we're getting closer every day to things becoming maybe not the same kind of normal that we had before the plague, but definitely a good kind of normal that I think we're gonna be happy with. But ultimately, as that time passes, you guys are going to have Andrus and I talk about film and entertainment. And if we can take a little time away from the frustrations that you're dealing with for a bit, then we consider ourselves lucky to do so. And if you are still out there on the front lines of the pandemic, doing what you can to make people's lives better, if you are in healthcare, if you're just taking care of a relative, if you're just calling a friend that you haven't talked to since before the plague started, and now you remember that you just wanted to see how they're doing, we stand with you and we appreciate what you're doing. Maybe if you'd like, you can tell us how we're doing. Feel free to email us, pullfocuspod@gmail.com. Like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud. Because remember, regardless of how many superheroes we have in a room, here's the thing. We may be wrong, but it's your job to tell us. Andrus, thank you so very much for giving me more of your time to talk about a really fun movie. I look forward to other things we're going to talk about. I look forward to seeing you. And thank you so much for everything, man. I do appreciate you. Thank you.
And right back at you.
Awesome. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time. Be safe. Be good to one another. And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.